I came across some old footage in my editing software of me cooking a pork shoulder. So I'm going to do a voiceover explaining what's going on here, and I'm just going to do one take. So I used a bunch of different seasonings for this cook. This is either a Boston butt or a pork shoulder. I'm not really sure which one, but I use salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika, and I just seasoned the whole roast well on all sides. And then we transferred it to my smoker. Now, I was using a Char Griller Acorn. It's a Kamado style grill, Kamado style smoker. And normally, what I'll do is take that charcoal basket at the bottom and just sort of push it off to the right. And then I will cook indirect. I will put the roast a little to the left so that it's not directly over the top of the heat. Now, I don't know what type of wood I used there. That may have been apple wood. Probably either apple wood or cherry wood, if I had to guess. That's usually what I use. And you can see here we're just taking that roast and setting it off to the side and closing it down. And we will let it do its thing. Now, I do remember using thermometers. Here we go. So you can see here the internal temperature of the grill is sitting at 250. That's perfect. You want to be anywhere from 225 to 275, in my opinion, when you're smoking. And it looks like it's 66 degrees outside right now, which is pretty cool. You could probably tell by the dormant grass that it was definitely the cooler months of the year. So we'll just set that in there, and we'll keep an eye on the internal temp of the meat. Sitting at 34 right now. And I'm sure that's going to take a while. I mean, could be anywhere from an hour to maybe 2 hours on the smoker. This fast method that I like to use, where I transfer it from the smoker to an Instant Pot pressure cooker, I will take the roast to the stall, which is an internal temperature of about 150 to 160. Once it reaches that point, that's when I'll pull it and move it. So I'm just doing some cleanup here before I go back out there and pull the roast. You can see I got a time lapse going. And it looks like the internal temp of the meat now is sitting at 150, which is great. Let's see here. So that looks good. It's got some good color. And that will, I guess it's a little bit of a bark, but it will develop even more of a bark as it continues to cook. It will get a little bit darker. So at this point, we'll just take the roast and we'll bring it inside, and I will use the Instant Pot. Now, you need a liquid when you want to use the Instant Pot, so I'm using apple cider vinegar, a couple cups poured into the bottom here. And you'll have a rack. I've got a rack in there. You can't really see it, but there's a small rack at the bottom of that pot. Keeps it elevated above the liquid. That's going to create a pressurized environment with steam from that apple cider vinegar. And it is going to thoroughly cook this roast. Now, I thought I was going to have some trouble getting this roast in the pot because it was so big. This is probably an 8 or 10 pound roast. And but it fit in there just barely, but I got it in. Now you can see the timer on the Instant Pot says 1 hour, but I vividly recall setting an additional 30 minutes on that timer. So don't be deceived by that. It took about an hour and a half in the Instant Pot. You could try it for an hour. It'll probably work, but I wanted to ensure that it was very tender. That collagen and connective tissue really starts breaking down when the internal temperature of the roast is around 200, 205. That's when you really get that fall off the bone, pull apart tender pork, which is what I was aiming for. So it looks like it's set on low pressure, which is going to bring us up to around 225 before the timer starts. And there it is at 225. Timer kicks on. And here we are about an hour and a half later. And you can see how much that bark has darkened up just from being cooked in the Instant Pot. So it's very interesting. You would think that that dark color would only result from a smoker, but that is not accurate. It will darken even when cooked in a pressure cooker. So that bone clearly indicates that this is done. When you pull it out and nothing's hanging on the bone like that, it's ultra tender. So what we'll do now is we'll just pull out some big chunks, and you can see there's a little bit of pink there from the smoke ring. So that's going to add a great flavor. Pull out the big chunks. If you see any pieces of fat or connective tissue that haven't broken down, I'll pull those out. And we're just basically going through. It looks like my wife's trying to sneak a bite there, so she's going to pull a little piece off for herself. And clearly it's hot because she had to set it down. So what I usually do now is just reconstitute some liquids back into the meat. Now, this is a combination of the apple cider vinegar and the juices that have come out of that roast. So I'll just ladle a few spoons of that on there. It kind of helps it retain moisture. And I love the flavor, that acidic flavor that kind of cuts the fatty pork. So this is a great method. We took a 10 to 12 hour cook and knocked it down to just a few hours. And I remember my wife saying this is one of the best I've made. If you guys like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep making videos like this. All right. Thanks for watching.